Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell. You'll get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And when I'm not asking Bruce, hey, how big was Batista's, well, you know. One of the things I like to do is help people save money. And if you're watching this video right now and you're in a 30-year loan, man, you're overpaying your single biggest bill and you may not even realize it. I want you to do a little experiment for me. Take your calculator out, multiply your monthly house payment by 360 payments. That's how many payments there are in a 30-year loan. That big scary number, that's your total of payments. You're looking at that number? You know you can do better. Keep more of your own money right now and go to savewithconrad.com. Or maybe you've got credit card debt. Man, it's not a matter of if I can save you money with that. Your average interest rate on a credit card is more than 20%. And by the way, all the interest you pay on those credit cards, it's not tax deductible. Whereas the mortgage interest, well, that is tax deductible. So if you owe this debt, it's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to get the cheapest rate possible and the greatest tax deduction possible? Find out how much money you can save right now for free at savewithconrad.com. You don't need perfect credit. Even scores in the 500s can be approved, and it's no cost out of pocket. But maybe best of all, we're licensed in more than 40 states. We can help more families than ever before. But how much can we save you? Find out right now for free with a quick quote from savewithconrad.com.
The Ross Report with Jim Ross.
You know, it's great to always catch up with old friends, and I don't have any older friends, and I mean that respectfully, than Bruce Prichard. He and I started working together in the 1980s. Golly, the 80s, Bruce.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure.
Bruce is a budding podcast mogul. He's making Court Bauer and the mighty MLWradio.com network wealthy. And we're glad of that. We like wealth, and we like spreading it around. Bruce's show is called Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard. And I know it drops on Fridays because I listen. And Bruce is on Twitter. We'll get all this bullshit out of the way. At Bruce Prichard, Prichard, no T.
There you go.
So, yeah, I got the drill.
And you can follow the show at Prichard Show, too, on Twitter. So we got two different accounts.
Good. There you go. So,
and, hey, it's Conrad for Conrad Thompson, my host of my show. I don't call him the co-host because he's the one that does all the work.
Yeah. Well, he's the brains of the outfit.
You know it.
You're the sizzle, and he's the steak.
Somebody's got to be.
Somebody's got to be all those parts to make it work.
There you go.
Quite honestly. So, but seriously, congratulations on the success of your podcast. And, you know, when I heard you were getting into it, I thought, well, there's no doubt in my mind that Bruce can produce and host and be a talent on an entertaining show. But I didn't have in my mind's eye what you guys came up with for your format. For those that may not have sampled it yet, tell us how your format, your Conrad's format, differs from a lot of us.
Well, first of all, we don't do guests. And that's kind of the motto of the show, no guests needed. And it started with conversations that Conrad and I would have where he would start the conversation off with, hey, what happened when? And he would ask me a question, and I would tell stories. And, you know, I'd go on forever telling stories, and this whole podcast is something, as you listen to it, and you probably chuckle, say, I've heard those stories a million times. But for him, it was new, and he looked at me and said, man, this is a podcast. We should do a podcast. And I said, I'm not interested in doing that. And he harped on me long enough that I said, okay, I'll do it if you do it with me. And never in a million years did I dream that it would become what it is, but we take 4 topics, and we put polls on Twitter on Sunday, and they stay up until Tuesday morning. We let our audience choose the topic that they want us to discuss that Friday, and we do a show. And the shows kind of take a life unto themselves. We don't really follow a set format, do a 1-hour show. Sometimes they've taken up to 3 hours. But we do as long as it takes to cover the subject. And he's kind of like Eric Bischoff calls him a prosecutor. So it's kind of like being cross-examined by a prosecutor like Jerry McDivitt or something for 3 hours.
Wow.
He's brutal sometimes.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
But it's a lot of fun. I've had a blast doing it.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. You have really terrific chemistry. I'm wondering, I saw one the other day. It was a vintage Royal Rumble. I don't know if it's the '98 Rumble or whatever, but a Rumble back in the late '90s.
'94.
Okay. Did you? What do you do? Go back and YouTube and Google, and how do you do all your prep? Because I know you're doing prep work, because there's just no damn way you can remember everything that happened in 1994 as much as we'd like to claim we can. It's just impossible.
Well, what I do is I went back and I watched it on the network, on the WWE network. Conrad goes back and he hits all the dirt sheets, and he goes through and picks out all the rumor and innuendos surrounding the time frame and hits me with everything that was thrown out in the world at that time. And I debunk it. But the way that I approach it, Jim, is from my vantage point. And I look at it in how those events affected me, what I was doing at the time, and how I saw it, what I felt during that, how it affected me. I'm not necessarily going back and talking about how, well, that was a 5-star match, or I do some of that if I think it was a great match. But we talk about how it affected me, the thought process going into a lot of that, and coming out of it, where we were going and why we were going there. And I find myself defending a lot of it. And one of the things that people forget is people like to bash. And they like to tell you, second guess after the fact, how horrible something was. And I guess that they want me to kind of crap all over things that, hey, I was a part of it. So I'm sitting at the house out by the pool with the book open, creating a lot of this crap. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to sit there and say, no, I thought that was a horrible idea. I use the Jerry Lawler analogy of the guy coming to him at TV and looking at him saying, damn, Jerry, you really think that's going to draw? And he says, no, I want to waste 10 minutes of valuable television time because I think it's a drizzling shit, and I don't think it's going to draw a penny.
Ain't going to draw a dime.
Yeah, I mean, it's a silly question.
Yeah,
did you really think that was going to work? No, I thought it was horrible. I just wanted to waste a bunch of people's time and risk my job putting a shitty idea out there.
That's funny. You mentioned Conrad about the going back to all these archived websites and message boards and all that stuff. It's like Barnett would say, "Oh my God, Conrad likes the dirt."
Oh, he's my favorite.
Yes, I love that beard. He's such a jovial man.
Oh God, Conrad.
Conning.
He would like. Conrad and Barnett would have gotten along well.
He's my Conning. And he likes Gucci shoes, and his feet are so chubby.
Oh, I love him.
Barnett sample came by. We're glad of that. I like the format and the questions. I also think it's cool that you're letting the audience, lead you to what they want to hear. I think that's smart. And you and I were talking earlier today about the T-shirt business at Pro Wrestling Tees. You know, you're doing a hell of a job marketing that whole concept, and everything is organically being manufactured in concept on your podcast, and then you make it come to life with your shirt designs. And the thing that I think is just the greatest thing of the whole deal is the fact that somebody buys a T-shirt, one of your shirts, off ProWrestlingTees.com, you will call them. You actually call the customers, which I think is one hell of a deal.
I do, and it's pretty cool. It's instant feedback for me too, because I get their reaction on the shows. But everybody that buys a shirt, you go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Bruce Prichard, or just go to BrucePrichard.com, and it takes you right to the site. And as I told you the story earlier, one of our best sellers was a box of gimmicks, which came about because Terry Taylor had done an interview where he talked about how he was supposed to be Mr. Perfect, but when they reached in the box of gimmicks and were drawing gimmicks that day, he got the Red Rooster, he being Terry Taylor. And so I jokingly said, oh, yeah, we got a brown box in the corner. It says box of gimmicks on it, and we just have a bunch of gimmicks in there, and whenever somebody comes in, who's next? Okay, we got a goon here, a hockey guy. And it just was so ridiculous, but it works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, every time somebody buys something, man, I pick up the phone. It takes a minute, but I get instant feedback on the show, and I really appreciate them taking the time to take out the credit card, buy a shirt. It's the least I could do to say thank you, and I'm kind of humbled by it, really.
It's a hell of a deal. It's old school. It's like, it reminds me that you're like an old school promoter. You're like Paul Bosch in Houston or Sam Muchnick in St. Louis. Leroy to a lesser degree because of his blindness in Tulsa. But you're out there. It's shoe leather. It's personal interactions, building your client base, and I just think it's a hell of a deal. So check out Bruce's shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com. We have a store there as well. Don't sell nearly as many shirts as Bruce, and maybe I should start. See if I start calling people, then the social media will get on my ass about stealing your gimmick, and I don't want to
go for it. I've stolen a bunch of your gimmicks.
Yeah.
Tell me an original. Give me an original idea.
I don't know. I don't have.
All we do is steal and reinvent.
Yeah.
And
I had one once, but it died of loneliness.
There you go. Exactly.
Thanks to Jim Cornette and Bobby Heenan, that joke will stay with me forever.
There you go.
Goddamn. Yeah. Damn Kenny, it's son of a bitch.
Double cheese, double mayo, and onions.
Yeah, he doesn't eat that way anymore. Corny don't. He's calmed down a little bit on his eating.
He has. He looks good too, bastard.
Yeah, he looks good, and yeah. We got some questions here from Twitter, so you never know what you're going to get. It's a potpourri. So here we'll just knock a bunch of these out and just go until our time's up. It should be some fun shit here.
Let's go for
it. Regarding WWE, and here, so it's a three-parter, and you can answer any or all of it, however you choose. Why did you leave WWE? Who told you were going to be gone from WWE? Did you expect it was going to happen? And do you think there'll ever be a reconciliation?
Okay. First of all, I was fired. Second of all, Stephanie McMahon fired me. Third of all, I did not know. And last but not least, you never say never in this business. And it's just that. It's business. And many years have passed, and time moves on and heals all wounds. And, hey, you and I both, we're no strangers to being fired by the McMahon.
No.
So, it's like shit happens.
Yep.
So, but yeah, that's it, man. I was fired. I was asked to leave, and I left, and it was time. Everything runs its course. I had a great run, and I loved my time there.
How long were you there?
22 years.
Yeah. Another question here from Twitter. This is a dandy. How do you describe Vince McMahon to a stranger?
Ooh, a crazy genius. John Layfield and I had this discussion not long ago, talking about how people say that he's out of touch and that he's lost it, he's this, that, and the other thing. I remember those same comments about him in 1984, that he doesn't know what he's doing, he's killing the wrestling business, he doesn't have a clue, he's lost his mind. I don't know how many times I heard it in the 90s, or early 2000 while I was there. Look, I'll put his track record up against anybody, but it was always intense, and it was insane at times, but it was never boring.
When I first came to work there, and there was a time there in the early going, and then had my little interruption in service. I came back. Here's my point: is riding in the car with him when we go on the road to do TV, before the airplane, before the chart, the Lear, and all the Black Beauty and all that stuff. We were flying commercial, and we were renting a car, and he always drove the car he was riding in. He drove, as best I recall. I might be wrong on that, but I think he drove most of the time, didn't he?
A lot of times, yeah. And then when like when we were doing Raw, and it was just like me, Vince, and Pat. A lot of times he would have Pat drive. I would have to sit shotgun, and he would sit in the back in the bartender seat, and they would just piss me off. That's where Pout Boy was born.
Wow. But you learn a lot of things about him. He doesn't eat food with his hands. I actually one time said, "You don't eat with your hands?" He said, "Nope." I said, "How in the hell do you eat ribs? How do you eat fried chicken?"
I don't.
I don't. How dare you infer I might eat fried fowl?
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway.
How dare you insist I'm normal? God. Meat on a bone?
Yeah.
Ugh.
And they fry it, you say?
Yeah. I asked him one time the same thing about eating with his hands. Well, what about a sandwich? That doesn't count. I said, okay, how about pizza? I fold it over and I don't eat the part I touch.
Jeez.
What the
That's way out of my league, buddy. Hey, another question. This is an interesting question, and I get this a lot, and I don't really have a good answer. I hope you do. The invasion angle. Why did it not work, and what would you have done creatively to increase its chances of working?
In my opinion, the reason it didn't work is because we didn't have what people associated WCW with. And due to, as you know, the contractual situations with AOL, Time Warner, with the big guys like Goldberg and Hall and Nash and all those guys that they had associated in that hot NWO run of WCW, we didn't have any of those guys when they came over, when we bought WCW. Mm-hmm. We didn't assume any of those contracts, and I don't blame one single guy for not wanting to make that jump when they had guaranteed money to sit at home. I think that's the biggest reason. I think that it was not the WCW that people wanted to see coming in.
I agree.
It was three initials.
So to make it better, we would have needed to have had access to Hogan and Sting and Hall and Nash and you know, a few others of that upper card group to make it work. And like you said, you know, and I was involved in that whole thing as well, and it didn't make any sense monetarily for us. Financially, it made no sense to add that debt to our overhead when those guys really, none of them were jumping out of their skin to come to WWE at that time. They were very happy to stay home and make ridiculous amounts of weekly checks for just chilling and letting their contract run its course.
Exactly, and I think that the audience didn't really understand that, and you can't explain that. You can't go on the air and say, okay, folks, here's the situation. But that was the reality of it, and I'll never forget when we were sitting in the conference room at the TV studio, and we were going over everything and got some of those numbers, and it was like, not in a million years. And he said, we'll build our own. We'll make our own WCW. And it just wasn't the same. It wasn't the WCW the audience knew.
No, sure.
Or wanted.
That was a key thing. The irony that we stole, what did we get, one really good pay-per-view out of it?
Yeah, if you want to call it a good one, but yeah, that's about it.
But I mean, numbers-wise, didn't it have Did it do a nice number? I don't know artistically how it was. I don't even remember that, but I know it seemed like it numbers-wise, it did a pretty nice number of buys. It did, and I want to say it was July that we did it, but it was with our guys. It was with Austin and those guys going over to the WCW side, remember? Mm-hmm. And it was, so yeah, it was all our guys splitting up. But I think that the audience was hoping that, okay, here's where they're going to bring in the big dogs. Mm-hmm. And it never came. Yeah, it never came. And unfortunately, I just think that idea was a great idea conceptually. It's just we didn't have all the parts we needed to make it work, you know? Yeah. So, hey, do you have is there any one angle that you're 20-plus years there that you had a big hand in crafting that you're especially proud of? Is there any one story that kind of, or one angle, whatever you want to say, kind of sticks out to you? Holy cow. I probably the whole introduction of Kane and the Undertaker and Kane being his brother's storyline and the culmination of that that was at an In Your House, I believe, at the first Hell in a Cell. That whole storyline is one that I started from day one and laid out every little detail
as Jim Cornette would say, in just the minute details, every bit of it. That was a fun one for me. I love to tell the story, and you'll appreciate this. Remember when Rock was hurt and he had gone out with a knee injury and wanted to bring him back in the nation? And I so strongly felt that he should be a heel, and he did not want to be a heel. And folks, this is breaking news. This is not Jim Ross telling you this. This is me telling you this because I was right there. It was Jim Ross's idea, and Jim Ross stole it from Deion Sanders, that The Rock referred to himself as The Rock and referred to himself in third person, and it was from a promo that Deion Sanders had done. And you told me the whole promo, and remember, we got Rock on the phone and pitched him. And by God, I dare say that was The Rock was born there.
Yeah, he did pretty good with that little idea.
You think so?
Yeah. You know, the deal was I used to do interviews for the Falcons in '92, and Deion was on the Falcons, and I remember this because the Atlanta just beat Green Bay handily, and the last game of the Georgia Dome. Well, in '92, I broadcast the very first game in the Georgia Dome in that whole season, and so I go to practice and I'd ask Deion if I could talk to Primetime. They're the same guy, but you had to talk to them differently. You know, like, hey Deion, you going to see Primetime later? Oh yeah, I'll see Prime. I said, you think he might be able to give me some time Thursday for the pregame show? JR, I'll talk to Prime. Deion, okay. So then I go do something else, and I come back. He said, hey, I talked to Prime. Yeah, what'd he say? You're in. You're good for Thursday. Well, tell him I said thank you. What the hell? Where are we here? You know. So, but anyway, it was a running deal with him, and it seemed like that would work for Dwayne, and it did. You know, it worked out good. Hey, look, it's one of those great things. It's like you laying out little pieces of nuance that are important to the story, imperative to the story. But the great thing for Kane and Undertaker, for Glenn and Mark, is that they both took the ownership and ran with it. It made it even better. That's what you're always looking for talent, I think.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I love to point out, that when people, you know, there's a lot of guys that will either take credit for, well, I did that, I did this. You know, I always say the guy that is responsible for Stone Cold Steve Austin's success is a guy named Steve Williams. Steve Austin. Steve Austin is the reason Stone Cold took off. Mm-hmm. Dwayne Johnson is the reason The Rock took off. Mick Foley's the reason. The guys, Triple H, Paul Levesque, those guys made it happen. They did it. You could give the same material, the same input, the same everything to someone else, it wouldn't have been as good.
Well, you know, you're right. You're right. And here's what perplexes me at times. And here's where the old guy in me comes out. I guess cranky is not cranky, but here's what I don't understand. I don't understand that when you say that, like in this forum, or I write about it on my website, or other podcasts I do, when I say that we don't put the onus on talent enough as to why talent isn't getting over. Everything is shifted to the creative or administration in any company, especially in WWE, because they're the big dog in the yard everybody's looking at. But I'm just of the belief that some talents could do a hell of a lot more than they are to get themselves over. For example, you watch Monday Night Raw. There's some very good talents from Monday Night Raw. There's also a lot of guys that are now finds themselves in positions on the road and in the house shows to be on top. But you watch their matches on TV, and it's the same match every week.
Right.
And whose fault is that, Bruce?
I think that the onus is on the talent. I think the onus is on the talent to try and break away. I'm not saying that it's a double-edged sword, okay, because you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. But you go out there, you got live TV, and Steve Austin and The Rock are two perfect examples of. They were given suggestions on what to do, and sometimes if they liked them, they'd go do them. But there were times that other people didn't follow scripts and didn't follow the suggestions. And I said to both guys on different occasions, you know what? it's live. So if you're willing to go out there and take the chance and you feel you've got something better and you're willing to risk that ass chewing afterwards, go for it. Because one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to shit the bed and you're going to get your ass chewed out backstage afterwards because it was horrible, or it's going to get over and they're going to come back and go, God, that was great. Who wrote that? You know what I mean? And both those guys had the balls to go out and take chances and take risks. Now, I get it, guys. The retort is, well, no, if I go against what they told me to do and what they told me to say, then I'm going to get in trouble. Okay. They were in the same boat, but they had the balls to go out, and they felt and they believed enough in what they should have done, and they knew their character because they helped create it. Their character was just an extension of them, that they were confident enough to go out and try something new and willing to take the risk of failure.
Yeah, a lot of guys don't want to do that. They don't want to get out of their comfort zone. I watch, I'm doing some commentary, unique, different commentary, New Japan for Access, and I'm going to go to back over to England and do a pay-per-view on February the 12th. And it's a nice card. Kurt Angle versus Alberto El Patron. They've never worked with each other before. It's allegedly Kurt's last UK event. And which makes me think that maybe he's going to do something with WWE a little bit more deeper than the Hall of Fame. I don't know. Or past the Hall of Fame, I should say. I don't know that either. I'm doing amateur detective work and assuming because I love the dirt. And so anyway, my point is guys can do more for themselves than a lot of them are doing, and they have those same matches every week tells me that they found their comfort zone, and those guys that are newly minted quote-unquote main eventers are going on the road right now for the Raw and SmackDown brand, and they're wrestling before let's put it this way, they're wrestling before less than sellout crowds most nights for the live events. Am I right?
Exactly.
So if you're happy to be headlining a half-full building, and you're cool with that, then okay. But I can promise you that the system is desperately looking for guys that aren't happy with that want to be the Stone Cold guy or the Undertaker guy or the Triple H, whomever, and close the show with an ass every 18 inches. Am I right or wrong?
It just makes sense, and the guys think that someone else created that because they're, different folks have taken credit for it, and people love to look at it and say, okay, well, I wrote that, I did that, or I'm the one that gave Steve Austin a ride to his first match, so it's really my doing. Look, the guys that are in between the ropes and the guys that have the microphone in their hands, it's up to them to shit or get off the pot. And some guys just can't do it, and other guys flourish. And if they have the confidence to get out there without a script in their hand and without an original thought, then they'll make it. You know what I mean? Just have some balls and jump out, as you say, out of your comfort zone and go. And it's the mark of when you watch the president and you see Bill Clinton was a master at this. I'm not a big Bill Clinton fan. But Bill Clinton's teleprompter goes out, that sumbitch didn't miss a beat.
No.
Obama's teleprompter went out, he was lost. And those are the guys that you sit there and you look at, and Clinton had charisma, and Clinton had that. He knew what he wanted to, he knew his message, he believed in his message, and he could tell you whether it was written out in front of him or not. And the same thing with the talent. If the guys actually believe who the hell they are and it's just an extension of themselves, then the audience will believe it as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I saw a funny thing on Facebook the other day at the inauguration. Hillary caught Bill eyeballing Ivanka Trump. Or Ivana, whatever her name is. Ivanka, whatever. Yeah,
the
her
daughter, yeah.
Yeah, the daughter. And so she caught him, red-handed busted him big time. And her face expression was absolutely priceless. Like, you son of a bitch, you dirty son. Can you just one function? Can you just stop? Put it back in your pants and just stop it. It's funny stuff. Did you work with Trump at all?
I did. I worked with Trump all the way back to '88 when we did the WrestleMania 4 and 5 in Atlantic City.
Well, let's do this. Let's take a real quick break and sell something. Because baby needs new shoes. You dirty bastard! You egg-sucking dog, Prichard. I will be back with Bruce. He's not an egg-sucking dog. Terry Funk may be an egg-sucking dog, but Bruce is not. And we'll talk to him more about some more brother love stuff and Donald Trump. How about that?
You're listening to The Ross Report.
Back with Bruce Prichard. You can follow him on Twitter at Bruce Prichard, Prichard, no T. And at Prichard Show, right, Bruce?
That's right.
Great podcast. Drops every Friday, folks. Something to wrestle with. Bruce Prichard. Can you put your goddamn name anymore on everything you're doing?
Call Brandon, kid.
Okay, before the break, I mentioned, Trump and McMahon had their big thing, the billionaire haircutting gimmick in 2007. And the only reason that I can remember that is egocentrically, 2007 was the year that Lawler and I went into the Hall of Fame together. Dusty was the star of the class. Nick Bockwinkel was in the class. Samoans, Sheik, leaving out somebody. God dang it. Oh, Mr. Perfect. So it was a hell of a class. But the Battle of the Billionaires was the next day there in Detroit. I remember that the event outdrew the Super Bowl, which was also in that venue earlier in the year. So it was a big success, big buy rate, and it was what it was. And that footage will now have bigger legs because it involves the current president of the United States taking a stunner and et cetera, et cetera. What was your experience like working with the Donald?
Absolutely great. And I go back, like I said earlier, to 1988 with him, WrestleMania 4 and WrestleMania 5 at the Trump Plaza there in Atlantic City. He was a good guy. He was easy to work with. The only thing was he hated to shake hands. And I always used to, because, I don't like to mess with people at all. I used to stick my hand right in his belly to try and get him to shake my hand. Where he had no choice. Like, hey, shake my hand. Hey, buddy, good to see you. And then later on through the years, different events and different things. He was with us at WrestleMania 7 with Marla Maples, and he was easy, man. He was a good guy, great businessman, and of course for the entire promotion up until WrestleMania there in Detroit. I was responsible for babysitting the Donald and doing all those segments with him. He got there early and on time. He was where he needed to be, when he needed to be there. But the one thing that really impressed me the most, he had his private dressing room away from everybody, but he would come and hang out in the common area and watch the monitor with the boys. He wasn't a prima donna. He had every opportunity to be, and he would come hang out with everybody and just be one of the boys. So I found him easy to deal with and extremely intelligent and a very nice man. And I had the pleasure of meeting his kids there in New York, several of the press conferences that we did there in Trump Tower, I guess. And he was easy, man. I got no complaints.
Yeah, me neither. I try to, make rounds and say hello and be polite, old school stuff. And he was always interested in what was going on. And he made a couple of positive comments about my work because once he got on TV, he was going to watch his stuff.
Yeah.
And he had the balls. And a lot of people don't realize how challenging this is. But, for somebody that, I'm not going to say Donald's not a great athlete. I don't think he is. I certainly was not. And when I had to get into matches or do physical things, I was always really uncomfortable doing it, not because I felt like it was beneath me, because by God, just wasn't very good at it. And I didn't want to, I wasn't trained at it. My bumps were horrible. My punches were bad and stiff and ugly, all that stuff. So, but he had the courage, Bruce, to take a stunner. He did the Luthez press on McMahon outside the ring one night on Raw.
Yep.
he was willing to try things, and so I had it to him for that. He wanted to be on the team, and he was willing to play his role and do his role. So I'm just holding out hope that maybe he could be a good president. Hope Jim Cornette's not going to listen to the show. But damn, Trump.
Look, JR, I thought you were my friend.
Yeah.
I know Bruce is a goddamn Republican, but you.
Yeah.
So anyhow, I thought he was a nice guy, and hey, look, I think he did that defiant Steve Austin gimmick. You know, I said this before. What your point is in this on branding, you're doing a great job branding your stuff. How's he going to become more identifiable with a common man better than putting on a baseball cap that says "Let's make America great again," like he had them printed at Walmart?
Exactly.
He's got these custom-made suits and a baseball cap, a trucker's cap, whatever. And I told somebody this the other day, I said, he got that idea from Austin, I believe. He saw Austin wore those caps. He identified all the common guys and the majority of the audience. That's what Trump wanted to do. Austin was a nonconformist. Austin was an anti-establishment guy. That's what Trump's trying to. That's what his deal was against the political, professional politicians. So I think he's a pretty shrewd cookie, quite frankly.
Yeah, I do too. And hey, folks, he's our president right now, so I think the whole idea is let's get behind and give him a chance, and let's hope he does good, because if he does good, that's good for everybody.
Bingo. Yeah, there you go. But I think that we're doomed for crazy social media memes, or what they call them, and all these other little things that they do. He's just a target. He's going to be that way for the next 4 years, and then, you never know what's going to happen at that point. Hey, it's kind of a funky segue, but kind of goes hand in hand with our judicial system in the wrestling business. Did you ever witness or attend any wrestlers' court sessions?
Yes.
I never did, because when I got so much involved in talent relations, it would not have been a good thing for me to be hanging around there watching somebody get bullied.
Well, they had representation. There was representation. There was a judge.
Now, Taker was always the judge, right?
Usually, yeah.
And was it JBL, John, the prosecuting attorney?
Sometimes, and you had Ron Simmons as sergeant at arms, and
who normally defended the accused?
That was their choice. Whoever they chose, it depended.
Okay, put it this way: did the accused ever win a case?
No.
Okay.
No.
So now the plot unfolds. So
no, not that I can ever remember. If charges were brought, it was usually best to settle out of court.
Yeah, and those settlements normally involved Jack Daniels.
If they were smart, it did.
That was Taker's preferred drink at that time, was Jack Daniels.
Yep. Jack Daniels and cases of beer were usually a good idea.
Yeah. So, but the issue is that we're kidding about some of this stuff. Quite frankly, more often than not, the succeeding emotions after the wrestler's court were positive ones. Guys got a little laugh. They blew a little steam off. They got some free beer. They were somewhat happy. I never saw it being a bad thing. Now, if you had guys if the court was in charge by Mr. Fuji or Davey Boy Smith or the Dynamite Kid, if they were the prosecutors, the judge, and the jury, we may have a little different ball game here.
This is true. Yeah, this is true. And I always used to say, too, I would rather have had the boys policing themselves than having to have one of us have to step in and reprimand them. I just felt it was a better atmosphere. Yeah. When you had the guys just kind of looking out for each other and policing their own stuff.
Not that I would ever do this, but somebody might have suggested, some of those guys said, look, when the show's over, why don't you just go to the hotel, smoke a joint, order a pizza or a salad or tofu? I don't give a damn. Just stay out of the strip clubs. You're not going to win there. But that didn't. What would Jerry Jarrett say? Well,
Well, huh? He likes some chicken salad, with the pecans.
Yeah.
God. That's another one. I actually have a chicken salad T-shirt because Conrad was so tickled telling the story about Jerry telling Jane, remember Jane, the chef at Vince's house?
Yeah.
Telling her how to make chicken salad because he didn't think she knew how to make chicken salad because she just made healthy stuff for Vince.
Yeah.
And she was so offended and so just, she was shaking. She was so mad. That man telling me how to make chicken salad, I can make a chicken salad that blow his mind. That's just not allowed in this house. I'm like,
Absolutely. You're right. Hey, when you were Brother Love, was there a Brother Love segment that you said if your son, if Kane or Amber, your son or daughter, want to say that they have it, but let's say hey Dad, show my buddies what you did as Brother Love. Is there one Brother Love bit or two that you would pick out of that group to show them?
Saturday night's main event with Hulk Hogan, where it was with Slick and the Big Boss Man, and Hogan was the first one to get his hands on me and ended up handcuffing me and clotheslining me over the top rope and all that. That was being in the business at the time, probably, I guess, whatever it was, 15 years or something like that. And I'd never really taken bumps other than as a referee. And to be in the ring with the biggest star in the business, and he was white hot at the time, and I was white hot as a heel because I got a lot of heat, and Vince forbid anybody to touch me because he was saving me for Hogan.
Smart.
And finally, when Hogan put his hands on me, we were in the Acro Arena in Sacramento, and it's one of those arenas that goes straight up, and so it feels like the people are right on top of you.
Yep.
And it was absolutely electric. But it was a great segment just working with him. I loved working with Hogan. And probably the other one would be WrestleMania 5 with Roddy Piper.
Two greats, man. Two greats. Piper and Hogan.
Yep.
Don't you think Hogan will end up getting a invite to get back in the family?
Yes, I do.
Me too.
I think it's just a matter of time.
And do you agree or not that it's deserved or it should happen?
I do think it should happen. I think he made a horrible mistake, and he's paid the price, and I think it's time to forgive and move forward.
Well, look, this could be said about most people and pretty much everybody that I know. If we went through periods of our life, Bruce, where it was the social media, camera phone generation as it is now, I don't know where in the hell, I don't know how you and I would even have jobs working for any decent human beings.
This is true.
Really, I mean, you were in a showbiz world, a kind of a C or D, not you, all of us, in kind of a C or D list, kind of a celebrity list, and we had our own little world. We were able to live in the wrestling world that either Watts created or Bosch created or Vince, whomever, and all those promoters were kind of unique dudes. They create their own world to live in because they really didn't function that great outside their world.
Wow, it's funny you say that because I did another podcast earlier today, and the guy asked me a question, and I made the comment. I said, you don't understand. I've really just been exposed to the real world in the last few years of my life. We didn't live in the real world. We lived in a bubble.
Yeah.
And when you get outside of that bubble, it's just different. Last few years, being able to be a part of my kids growing up and be able to go to their soccer games and go to their wrestling matches, that's been great because I didn't always get to do that. I was on the road.
Yeah.
And it's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, before I forget, and we've got more to go here, but I wanted to also mention about your kids. Your daughter, Amber, is tearing it up in amateur wrestling. And she was MVP of a tournament recently. And your boy Kane he's not a wrestling devotee. But are you surprised it's the girl that's the wrestling fan and not the son?
A little bit, but Kane wrestled his freshman year and ended up breaking his arm really bad, a compound fracture, and he's got 2 rods and about 13 screws and different things holding his arm together. So he kind of fell out of love with it, and he loves soccer. He's good at soccer, and he enjoys doing that. So he's found his niche. But if you'd have told me my little baby girl was going to be a wrestler, much less a little badass like she is right now, I'd say, not my daughter.
Hey, pal.
Yeah. Hey, pal, hang on. Where are you putting those hands? I don't have to worry about that because she'll kick some guy's ass.
What if little Amber wants to be a WWE women's wrestler? Is that cool?
Sure.
Because, it could happen. Right? It could happen.
It could, but I hope not. I wouldn't want, and that's terrible for me to say. I would not, put it this way, I wouldn't stop her. I'm not sure I'd really encourage it because it's a hard life, and I would want.
It is
a
hard life.
Tough one. That's a tough one.
They've done a nice job there, though, Bruce, with the marketing and promoting the women.
Oh, I agree. And they got some studs in there now, man. Those girls are just kicking ass, and I enjoy watching them. Just, it's not like, I don't mean to sound demeaning, but there was a time that the women's division, it was just an attraction, kind of a side deal. Now they're part of the story, and I think it's great because guess what? It's 50% of the population.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The other thing is that whether there's a polarized, Ronda Rousey's also polarizing, but I look at this whole thing. Ronda Rousey's emergence as a mega star had to have some influence on. Hey, we could do the same thing that UFC's doing if we give this division some legitimacy, and they're going to be sexy, good-looking women. What's Vince's deal? Strong, sexy, and powerful, or
strong, sexy, powerful?
Yeah.
Oh God! Yeah. Every time you say it, yeah.
Yeah. You got to, and you got to say it all together.
Yes.
One word doesn't work. You got to do all 3 every time. Oh my God. So anyway.
Say it.
Yeah.
Say it, JR. Say it.
Boy, have I heard that before. But I think they've done a hell of a job, and I think Ronda Rousey's popularity has helped it a little bit. And speaking of her, our friend Jonathan Coachman said that, he believes that, she's dead in the water as a marketable athlete, celebrity, personality, and that WWE would not even look at her. I think that's what he said. Would not seriously consider utilizing her. And I said, not to just to throw shade on Coach, because I like Coach, but I disagree because I believe that Vince McMahon can recreate, reheat, anybody he wants. Look, Mike Tyson was on the scrap heap. And
so I was just going to say.
And Lawrence Taylor couldn't get work. So for the time that Vince devoted on those talents, for example, just 2 of those guys, look at how he created that whole image for Floyd Mayweather and Big Show. I could imagine other meetings that you and I were in with let's say Cowboy or Ernie, or let's say Ernie brought the idea to Cowboy for Big Show to have a worked fight with Floyd Mayweather, 140 pounds, and Big Show's 400. Cowboy would have gone crazy.
Oh, yeah.
You're exposing the business. You're an idiot. I didn't know how to dumbass, blah, 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 blah. All the stuff I've heard a lot, directed to us. But Vince could make Ronda Rousey a massive star for a one-off very easily. Don't you believe? Am I
sure.
wrong?
I think not only that, he would make her a huge star in our world and the outside world, but I think he would make her relevant again in the UFC game.
Yeah.
About what he could do with her.
I agree. I just think that she's really, really, she still has a fan base. Her last pay-per-view did over 1 million buys. She has a fan base that have invested emotionally in her, and so I think they would transfer that fandom to the next arena she goes to.
Look at Brock Lesnar. When Brock had lost his last fight and retired, everybody said, damaged goods, he'll never be back, no one will ever pay to see him. And he comes back and drew the kind of numbers that he did. And it's there. It's easy. It really is, and she will be a bigger star. I like to use the example when The Rock was gone, and Rock was using the name Dwayne Johnson. You know, he wasn't calling himself The Rock. And they brought him back, and I guess, was it WrestleMania in Houston? No, it wasn't. It was after that. Another WrestleMania. But my son was maybe 10 at the time, and he said to me, he goes, "Hey, that's really cool that WWE finally got Dwayne to come and do something with them." And I just was, it would have been in 2011 whenever he came back. And I remember I talked to Vince around that time, and we were talking about something. I said, "Hey, I got to share with you what my son said." He thought it was pretty cool that you guys could get Dwayne Johnson to do something for WrestleMania. And he said, "God damn, pal. You know, we take that for granted." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "But that's your audience that doesn't, Rock's been away.
Yeah.
He doesn't know Rock, but he knows Dwayne Johnson."
It's challenging sometimes to make clear just how important WrestleMania is to WWE. And it's not just because of the money that it can and usually does earn. But it's almost a I don't know, is it the beginning of a season or the end of a season, or is it both? It's like that whole building, there's nothing more important in any department than the success of WrestleMania within their given areas. It's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It really is, and you're right. It is both. And I look at it, and it has almost become, it's not, but it's almost become a phone-in for the sellout and all the events. And somebody says, "Well, yeah, it's easy. You know, they just go in and do what they do." It's like the Super Bowl. Oh, you set up fan access, you have a couple shows, you do the Hall of Fame, you do whatever you do. They have no idea the amount of manpower and hours that go in to planning that week.
Amazing.
And it is, and it grows every year.
It does, and they keep doing just an amazing job every year. I thought last year was one of the most scenic, breathtaking, WrestleManias. I don't know if the card was such an artistic success, but that's it's always hit or miss. It's creative. That's what it is. It don't all stick on the wall. Some slides down to the floor. Done. But I thought that the look of that stadium in Dallas, or Arlington, absolutely amazing. And WrestleMania this year in Orlando, the Citrus Bowl's been renovated. Camping World Stadium, I think it's called. And were you there at 24? You were, weren't you?
I was. Yes, I was.
And I say that like I'm an idiot, like I'm, J.R. senile. But look, you and I came and went a few times.
Exactly.
So I had a couple of, I always use the term like the cable guys. I have an interruption in my service.
No, you're on hiatus, pal.
Yeah. I love going. I think I visited Snoop's tent about 4 times that day. Snoop Dogg. Then for some mysterious reason, ladies and gentlemen, I felt the urge to go to catering and migrate right to the dessert table.
They had brownies, yeah. Exactly, man. No, I'm going to be back in Orlando, man. We're doing a live show. Conrad and I are going to do a live show there at Back Booth Saturday night beforehand. I know you're doing 2 of them there,
yeah.
And we're just about sold out. Hopefully, by the time this thing airs, I think we'll be sold out.
How do they get tickets? They want I would.
If they are, you go to notarib.com, notarib.com to get tickets, and better hurry.
Right.
It would be a good thing if they went there and they were sold out. That'd be an awesome thing.
Tickets are limited, folks.
Tickets are limited.
Yeah, we play these. We're not playing a stadium. Bruce's show's not a stadium, nor is mine. If my show doesn't do well, I'll just have the damn thing in my room.
There you go.
So you're going to tell me again? It's on what night's it on?
It's on Saturday night, right after NXT. So it's going to go on about 11:30 at night on Saturday night. We're going to wait till NXT is finished up. It's 2 blocks from the Amway Center downtown,
okay. And
it's at a club there, and we're going to have some fun and have a few special guests and all that good stuff. So
The event at WrestleMania is there. And for all this information, you can go to Bruce's website, bruceprichard.com.
That's it.
Well, listen, I think we've covered everything. Is there anything else? Your show drops on Fridays, mlwradio.com. Hey, now, tell me, now I know you do funk and you do Dusty and Barnett. We both do a lot of the same people because they've been such a big part of our life.
Exactly.
You know, that's all that is. It's not meant to be mean-spirited or harmful. But do you also do me?
Oh, yeah. Oh, hell yeah. I do you. One of my favorites. And Jim, if you haven't seen it, you do have to check out brucepritchard.com because Michael, and I credit Brian Gewirtz with this, but whenever we would see Michael kind of like walking down the hall with his hair flowing and his fanny pack on and his big, unique attire, we just kind of look, and Brian started going, well, look, here comes Michael. Do. And that kind of just described Michael in a phrase. Do. So I told some Michael stories. Well, hell, goddamn, boy, do. And as I'm telling the story, somebody sends me an interview that Hunter did about cutting his hair off. And they said, well, what made you, I think he did it with Jericho. I said, what was the decision to cut your hair off? He says, well, I got to thinking about being an executive in the office, and I didn't want to be an executive with, hair hanging down to my ass wearing a fanny pack like Michael Hayes. Do.
Wow.
And I died. And Conrad Thompson goes, man, that's a shirt. And we did a rip-off of the Freebird Old Bad Street USA shirt with do on it. And it's hilarious to me. And of course I do Paul Heyman, sir, if I may have another volley. I am in New York City right now as we speak, Mr. Ross.
Yeah.
The temperature is 34 degrees and 34.5 degrees, sir. If I may have another volley.
He's a classic, man.
Yes.
Classic.
And of course, I do Pat, but my Pat Patterson kind of sounds like Luigi in a pizzeria.
Yeah.
At a better case, the Jim Ross. If you only wanted the hat, oh my God, we love you. At a better case,
Yeah.
But they don't know that Pat actually does sound like Luigi in an Italian pizza parlor.
You're exactly right. Well, hey, they're all great people from our past and our present, and hopefully, at least for a while longer, for our future. Good people. And hey, look, man, I'm really happy for your success. You and Conrad have a great show. We'll get you back on this here again one of these times. We got a lot of things we can talk about, but nonetheless, all I got, if I know what you're doing, I'm happy to promote it. I want you to be as successful as you can, and I know you feel the same way. So
same here. We always usually start our show off just kind of plugging the good ones, and we always talk about you and Austin and Ryback. Actually, by God, he's opinionated as hell and getting out there with his show, and it's all good, man. I love it because it's not competition. It's just getting the genre out there.
Have you listened to Lance Storm and Don Callis?
I haven't, but I heard it's good.
Very good. It's very, very good, and they're extremely smart. They have really unique points of view, and of course, they both have very distinct but very prominent senses of humor. And I really, it's really an enjoyable. That's on the Chris Jericho, the mighty Chris Jericho network on Podcast One, and of course, we talked about Austin's podcast. Still kind of I would guess, I'm not sure. I would guess Steve's podcast is still, his two shows are still kind of the Mac Daddy of the business, and I don't know that, but I'm guessing.
Well, Steve's the Mac Daddy, and you talking about Jericho, dude. I think Jericho's doing some of his best work right now.
No doubt. And he's not afraid, as we talked about earlier. He's got balls. He's not afraid to take a chance, and he's also not afraid to stick his neck out there creatively to see if something's going to work or not.
Exactly. That's what it takes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why he's still relevant.
Yep. WrestleMania, look for Bruce and Conrad down there, folks. Check out the podcast, Something to Wrestle with Bruce Prichard, every Friday. And it's a great podcast. I wholeheartedly suggest that you look at it. And are you guys getting any closer to doing 2 shows a week, or are you going to stick with one, or do you know?
Right now, we're going to stick with one, but we may end up doing a second show, and we're investigating that as we speak.
Good. Well, good luck on it, and keep up the good work. Best of the family, and I really do appreciate you coming on. And if there's anything I can do for you guys, it's just I'm a phone call away, buddy.
Same to you, Jim. Love you, and thank you for having me.
My thanks again to my friend, Brother Love, Bruce Prichard.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.